Hi everybody, it's me, Corri and Julia from Manifest with Julia.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our collab.
Yeah, we're doing a collaboration today. So at the moment, right, what we're going to do is I'm going to do an intro, then Julia's going to do an intro because we're both going to put this video on both of our channels. So, hi everyone, it's me, Corri, and I'm very excited to have Julia come and do a collaboration with me. And we are going to be talking about the inner teenager, which is a very interesting topic. You will be able to find Julia in the description below. She is an awesome, awesome coach. She does loads of stuff about relationships, specific people, and she's just a really awesome person. And if you don't know her yet, then you should go and find her. So find the links to her channel and her Instagram below. I'm going to hand over to Julia now to do an intro for your channel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, or if you're watching this on Corri's YouTube channel, then welcome back to hers. On my YouTube channel, I'm talking about consciousness, inner healing, self-love, and manifestation. So if you're new to my or Corri's channel, then welcome. And if you have been here before, then welcome back. Today, as Corri already said, we're going to talk about the concept of the inner teenager, which is so exciting. I just recently saw a post from Corri about this topic, and I was thinking to myself, like, wow, I thought I was the only person thinking about the concept of inner teenager versus inner child. And then we decided to talk about this topic today to bring a little bit more clarity to this concept and how you can apply it and help you heal in your own life and on your own manifestation journey. And if you don't know Corri yet, and if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, then definitely check her out. I'm going to put the link to her YouTube and her Instagram in the description box below. She has lots of incredible and amazing content on her YouTube and on her Instagram. And yeah, that might definitely help you. And now I would say let's get started with today's topic.
Yeah, awesome. Well, oh my God, the inner teenager. So yeah, you reached out to me the other day, didn't you? And you were like, oh my God, the inner teenager, let's talk about it. Because we've been wanting to do a collaboration for a while, haven't we? And then this seemed like the most aligned thing to be talking about. So yeah, it's really interesting because I mean, I was thinking about it because I'm like you, we're talking to clients all the time, and often like what comes up is the past. We're talking about our inner child, but so often when I'm talking to people, we're talking about things that happened in their teen years that created more trauma. And I have this theory that I was, explaining to you earlier, where I think that what happens is in our childhood, we go through so much stuff. No one really gets out of childhood without some kind of trauma, like really no one, even if you didn't have like the obvious parents broke up or something really big or traumatic like seemed to happen. There are traumas, little traumas that happen and curate over our childhood that mean that we're in some way going to be affected. And then we bring that into our teenage years when we are developing, when we're learning, when we're discovering who we are, when we're becoming conscious of our thoughts and our feelings, and we're learning to know who we are, and we're building our beliefs. And we have these experiences in the midst of that and hormonal changes. And then those beliefs are solidified at that really, really crucial time. And so we can take that childhood trauma into our teen years and experience things and act out in those, inner child ways in our teen years that deepen that trauma and confirm to us a self-concept about ourselves that maybe we're not lovable, maybe relationships don't work for us, maybe we're not good enough, and so many. I mean, the endless list of ideas and beliefs and stories that we can tell ourselves in our teen years when we start to become conscious, and that we learn through experience when we're unconscious. And no one teaches us this stuff in school. No one teaches us how to become more aware of our thoughts. No one teaches us how to have conscious relationships, how to manage our emotions. And then with that, all of that mixed up, it's such a mess. And we bring that into our adult life. And then we wonder why we are confused. And then we wonder why we don't understand ourselves. So, yeah, like, I mean, like many of you may have seen the video that I did with Mo. I was talking about my 15-year-old self. And sometimes I have to go back there and say to myself, like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need from me? And so basically, I'm gonna stop talking and let you say what your thoughts are on all of this now as well. But I think, yeah, it's such a big topic that often gets overlooked because the inner child kind of like seems to trump everything. And yeah, that's where it begins. That's where it begins. That's where our inner teenager stuff, stems from. But still, there's stuff and memories and feelings that we can work through and begin to understand when we become conscious and really start to love our inner teenager as well.
Yeah, I really love what you were saying, that the inner child seems to trump everything. Like that's really also the same experience that I have. It's like you hear so much about the inner child. And sometimes when I was doing inner child work, I found it a little bit difficult to connect with the concept, like not always, obviously, but sometimes. And I realized, oh, why is it difficult for me to connect to my inner child? Well, because something else is coming up for me. And then I was looking into that and I was like, oh, I'm hurting, but I'm not hurting from my childhood at the moment. Like maybe I've healed it, or maybe it's just not coming up right now, but like I'm hurting the part of me that was not seen or not understood or was confused in my teenage years as I was developing from being a girl to being a woman. This part is hurting because there are very unique concepts or a very unique self-concept that I developed, that we are developing during our teenage years, and that we then carry on into the rest of our lives. And if we don't look into it, like I can definitely see my inner teenager come out in all of my relationships, like not only romantic relationships. Obviously I could see it very, very evidently, but even in my friendships or in my family relationships, the inner teenager is present. And the more you start to become aware of that part of yourself, the more you can start to heal it. And really, instead of just like going about life the way you always did, you can really start to consciously develop. And I think what happens for many people is that instead of really developing from a girl to a woman, or from a boy to a man, or however you would describe your development, we are really just like, we're just doing what we were taught, or how we are just living the way we were conditioned. And I realized at some point, oh wow, my conditioning is really not reflective of the woman and the human being that I want to be. But because we're full of these beliefs, especially when we are developing also in puberty, and when our sexuality, our sexual energy comes up more and more, or starts to become more relevant, let's put it like that, then our thoughts get attached to that, and our self-concept, as you said, it solidifies. So
that's, oh my God, it's like when I think about my teen years, I just think about it as such a confusing time. And I just remember feeling like I was really like the only one. And really I was, but the way I see it, and I don't know if like you can relate, or like anyone else who's watching this might be able to relate and maybe not feel so alone when I'm saying this, but like when I was sort of 12 or 13, I developed like really bad health anxiety. That was the first thing, like absolutely obsessed with like the idea that there was something wrong with me and I was going to die. That had come from my younger years, when, maybe I'd got love. I had a lot of love whenever I was ill. My grandpa was a doctor. I was always really held and loved when I was ill. So maybe I've always theorized that maybe like if there was something wrong with me, I'd be more loved. I'd feel more loved, which was maybe my health anxiety might have been a way for me to get more love. I don't know. Who knows? I'll never really know for sure. But I brought that anxiety then into my relationships, which got me to be very obsessive about, does this person love me? Do I love this person? How do I feel? How do I know it's right? Like, and my codependency, my need to be seen, my need to be loved, because I hadn't had or I had a lot of love in my childhood. I'd been really loved, but there'd been moments, crucial moments, where I really needed it, that had created, I'm not seen, I'm not loved, I'm not lovable. And so I'd been very, very dependent on getting that love in relationships, which then taught me the belief relationships are difficult for me. I'm not myself in relationships. I lose myself in relationships, which I brought all the way into my 20s and my 30s, right? So like I brought these beliefs from my experiences, the lived experiences that I had as a teenager. But when I was a teenager as well, I just did not understand myself, and it felt like no one understood me. It felt like I was just honestly like screaming, asking someone to tell me what was wrong with me. And really, there was nothing ever wrong with me. I was responding perfectly in a normal way, given what I'd been through in my life. But because at the time, you know, there wasn't this mental health awareness like there is now. There wasn't YouTube to like, you know, look at videos of other people experiencing the same thing. There wasn't Google to like Google stuff. So I developed the belief there's something wrong with me, there's something I need to fix, which is a total lie. And I carried that into my journey, which has led me onto this journey of like deep healing. And sometimes I even question myself, am I on a journey of deep healing because I told myself that there was something wrong with me when I was young and I didn't feel understood and no one could teach me what I was going through? Is that why I've been doing this? And really, the story can change immediately when I say, really, there's nothing wrong with me. But this is just an example of like how we bring the beliefs through the experiences that we have in our teen years into our relationships and into our lives and into the concept that we have of ourselves. So yeah, I was wondering as well, like, do you what's your experience when you were young? Like, did you experience something similar, or did you, you know, how what's your inner teenager like? What's she what's she
So yeah, so when I think back to my teenage years, like I was definitely a different person, not at my core. Like I think our core never really changed, like who we really are, our authentic self never really changes. But I feel, and I think probably many people can relate to that, is that when we are like as teenagers, there's not so much space for us to like in within our own consciousness, because we don't, as you said, learn these things in school. We are, I think, very and that might not be everybody, but I think generally it's true that we are kind of looking for validation in our teenage years. We're looking for validation of our peers, and I think that can make it I think that can make those years particularly difficult, because you don't really have the space then to be authentic if you're constantly looking for validation. And that's also maybe the bridge to where, as children, you know, it was kind of normal to look for validation from your parents, but if you didn't get what you needed, or not all of your needs were met, then you kind of carry that into your teenage years, and you're trying to get validation from your peers, or from the people that you are, from the person that you're in a relationship with, for example. And if I think back personally to my teenage years, I feel that there was definitely this, even without really noticing it, like to a certain level, there was this I wouldn't even say a need for validation, but just this desire to belong, to my friends, to belong to my to belong to the people that, or the school that I was in some way. And just later, after I left school, and yeah, maybe even before that, but like especially when I was a teenager, like I was not, I think, not noticing how much that was adding to the pressure that, you know, you already go through as a teenager. And of course, like you can of course develop authenticity as a teenager already, but the question is, if nobody's asking you like what do you really feel, if you don't really have that safe space, I think that's when the experience as a teenager can be kind of
Yeah, and I think
difficult, and you just try to survive, basically. Like,
you're just trying
I
to
think that's
survive.
where I
Yeah.
was getting at. I think we're trying to survive. We're trying to be like, who are we?
Yeah.
Where are we going? What are we
And
supposed to do?
there's all these beliefs in society and in school, like, you know, there's so much pressure at school, for example, like, which is compounded by often families and expectations of like, oh, you're good enough if you do well in this exam, and you have to study, 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 because the main focus of life is to just do well at school, and we'll celebrate you when you finished your exams.
Exactly.
And so there's those expectations, and then there's also the expectations of little social groups, you know, like social groups.
Yeah, I think that's
Cool.
crazy about teenage years. I think that's
Yeah,
absolutely traumatizing, honestly.
it's so horrible, because but it makes sense. It makes sense, you think, from like an animalistic point of view, because people survive in packs, don't they? And when we're a teenager, we're like, oh, I want to feel safe, I want to feel safe. Where do I go to feel safe? Where do I go to feel like me? Oh, I'll gravitate towards these people who dress like this, who act like this, who talk about certain things, and that feels safe for me. So you develop a sort of concept of who you are based on like your, you know, who you might be around or not around, you know, if you didn't develop that kind of friendship group. But often in schools there's this kind of like herd mentality where people, you know, form particular groups. Like there was the cool kids, or there was the geeks, or there was the, you know, all like millions of different groups in schools or whatever. And when, for the people who didn't find safety or comfort in one of those groups, they then say, I don't belong, or I'm not safe here, or there's something wrong with me, or people don't like me, or relationships are not good with me, or I'm just not good enough in some way. Or like the, you know, I remember being at school and just floating around, never really being able to fit in anywhere, being like, oh, I'm pretty cool for a day or so, and then I'll go and hang out with the geeks. I never found like I never found anywhere that was like particularly definitely me, and I always felt uncomfortable, like in wherever I was. Really rarely did I fit in. And then when people start drinking and trying to be cool, or smoking, and like, or experimenting, or trying to ease their pain from their childhood trauma with smoking and drinking and drugs and whatever it is, and it's cool then, back in the day, like where people were like yeah, it's just, it becomes something that people celebrate, and then other people who are not doing it feel like they're doing something wrong, or they're not good enough, or they're not cool enough, and they get that peer pressure. The whole peer pressure thing is so massive and can create more trauma. And really the people who are putting the peer pressure on are people who are like responding to their own childhood trauma about trying to be seen, trying to be cool, trying to be enough. And the people who are not, who don't want to do that, who maybe are shy, or just maybe feel, yeah, that they don't want to do these things that are in society, at school, accepted norms or social expectations or whatever, feel like they've done something wrong, or they're not good enough in some way. And there's so much fuckery in all of it. I mean, there's so much opportunity to develop a really insecure self-concept at school and in your teenage years, or whatever. And you know, one of my like dreams, honestly, is to create like some kind of program or something for young teenagers to go into schools, to do talks, to talk to young people and be like, hey, I'm the person that you needed. I'm the person I needed when I was younger. So I'm here for you. I'm like, I would love to do that. It would just be so cool. And like talk to all the people who are really struggling with their thoughts and not understanding themselves. I would, honestly, that would just warm my soul. So like, I guess we're starting here with this conversation so that, you know, like if people who are watching this have kids or teenagers, like they can,
or if teenagers are watching this, because nowadays YouTube is available to everybody. Like, if you're here,
I feel for you. It's hard. It's so bloody hard being a teenager, honestly. But also I was going to say as well to parents, like parents in this, my mum, when I was a teenager, just felt completely inadequate because she didn't know what to do with me. She didn't know how to make me feel better. She didn't know, like, what she'd done. She thought she'd done something, you know, that it was her fault. And it wasn't her fault. She'd only ever just loved me absolutely to the best of her ability, and really done her best despite all the circumstances, a divorce, moving cities, finding a new job, all sorts of things, her sister dying, everything. There was so many things that happened that made it hard for my mum as a human being to be this all giving, all loving, fully encompassed, like brilliant, you know, mother of everything. She, you know, no parent is perfect. And so I wanted to say like a message as well to like anyone who is a parent who is watching this, or who is about to be a parent of a teenager. Good luck. Like, but no, I was gonna say like no, in the most loving possible way. You've done nothing wrong, and it's not your fault. And teenagers go through shit. Like teenagers just go through shit, and the best thing I think you can do as a parent is have empathy for the stored survival stress that was planted in a child's system in younger years through no fault of your own or their own or anyone's. The stored survival stress that's going to go in the teenage years, because there's all sorts of hormones and stuff like that that are all getting confused in the mix of social expectations and everything, and that's going to want to be released in some way. And it might be through, like for me it was endless crying, panic attacks, obsessive compulsive disorder, all of that, just highs and lows and confusion. Like that was my way of saying there's needs that I'm not getting met and I don't understand. And unfortunately for me, it wasn't until my sort of late 20s that I started to understand like what was going on then. And even now I'm still unraveling it. But yeah, that I think that the best thing you can do is have patience as a parent, and education about nervous system regulation, about childhood trauma, understanding yourself, so that you can bring that compassion and that patience and that space for a young person to be able to feel what they feel and release it in those years, so they don't have to carry those beliefs into their adult life.
Yeah. So as you're speaking, like what really comes to mind is like this concept of creating a safe space, because we've been talking about difficult emotions before, and it's basically what needs to be released when you are traumatized or when you're going through any challenges or difficulties, as we do as teenagers, as we do through our entire lives, but we're talking about the teenage years now. And and I think when you are able to create a safe space for your children, or if you're watching this for yourself, a safe space for yourself where you just can simply be present with whatever is coming up for you. I think this is something really, this is like such a game changer. Like whenever I don't know what to do with my emotions, I'm just like, just be with it, just be with them. Yeah, sometimes you don't know what to do. Sometimes there is not the next hack or trick or tool or manifestation technique or even other techniques that you need to apply to yourself, but just or to your children, but to just simply be present and say like, whatever you're going through, whatever I'm going through, that's okay. And I also think, talking about nervous system regulation, that's what it takes for us to become aware of our nervous system, because you can literally feel where you're at if you're dysregulated or regulated when you're simply being present. And when I think back, and I was talking about peer pressure and authenticity before, when I think back like to my teenage years, where authenticity already was important to me, but like there was a limited depth that I could reach, because there was just so much space that I could provide for myself, or that I knew how to provide for myself. And I think that people knew how to provide for each other. I think when you create that safe space for just like a teenager or your inner teenager to express, to be like, what are you currently dealing with? And just be like, it's okay that you're frustrated. It's okay that you're insecure. It's okay that you're feeling like you don't belong, or you're feeling like you don't know how to develop, or which direction to move in. I think this is like, no matter what you're going through that is challenging, just being present, like
Yeah,
allowing it to be
because
there.
when you experience it, that's your way of, I think, like, so much of this stress that we had, like, through not being present with our emotions when we were younger. Me and you were talking just before we started recording about how what we'll do is escape the feelings that we're having in our body. We'll try and look for, like, like, now it's so easy for teenagers to be on social media, to make a TikTok, to try and get validation that way, or everything that we do, the societal norms of addiction, like sugar and Netflix and any other sort of way that we are escaping what we're feeling. And that even comes to, like, blaming, putting blame on the rest of the world, blaming outside of you, blaming the government, blaming your ex, blaming whoever it is, wherever we're looking outside of us to not feel or to not take responsibility for what we're feeling, which is never what we were taught to do when we were teenagers. We're running away. We're running away from the experience of, like you say, like, being with those emotions. And until we be with them, we cannot release them. We cannot free them. We cannot, like, set them free. That inner teenager is going to go, hey, what the fuck is going on? Until we allow it to be there. You know how loving it is when someone's just with you and they're like, okay, yeah, it's okay. You're not crazy. You're not crazy. I hear you, no matter how big the emotion is, because that's the thing. Like, a lot of us have big emotions, grief, sadness, loss that we've experienced from the past, really deep anxiety, of fear, all these big emotions that maybe were gaslit in some way in our teenage years. Like, you'll be all right, oh, just do something else. Why don't you go to the music room? That's what you used to say to me. Why don't you go to the music room? Or why don't you do something else? You'll be fine. But the thing is that when people say you'll be fine, well, that's nice, but it's not holding the space to say, you're not fine right now, are you?
It doesn't get you in touch with your core, with your true self, with your authentic self. That's I think the deeper problem. Like, people who tell you, like, you're gonna be fine, and who tell you that over and over again, it's because they're not in touch with their own emotions, and then they're gonna tell you that something that is basically on the same level as they have reached in their development, basically.
I was going to say, like, a way that one thing that I like to do is, like, when I'm going through something now as an adult, and I can feel my body is dysregulated in some way, and I'm feeling, maybe I'm overthinking. These are the symptoms of the inner teenager or the inner child going, like this. Okay, so I've got, like, overthinking. That's one of the things that I'll do. Or freeze, go into the freeze response, not able to speak or move or whatever. Or I will be frantically looking for an answer. I'm Googling symptoms. I'm asking for reassurance. This is, by the way, asking for reassurance and Googling, looking for articles and videos, is a way of escaping what you feel. So
at least after a certain extent of doing it, I would say, like,
once
you can Google stuff, but, like, if you're doing that for days and weeks and you are not changing anything, then
so, like, what, like, when you're like, I know this stuff, why am I doing this? I already know what this person's telling me, yet I'm Googling, or I'm looking at another video, or I'm going to another coaching session, or what. I know this stuff. Then there may be part of you that's reassurance seeking, or looking outside of you to, like, find that safety in yourself, which is fine, because we need co-regulation too. We do need co-regulation as well. That's another beautiful thing that we can do. But whenever I'm finding myself doing that, I'm like, okay, how old do I feel right now? Like, if I was to ask myself, how old do I feel? And then usually it's sort of like, okay, today, maybe if it's my teenager, like, I'll be like, I feel 15 or 14 or something, or maybe 13. And it feels like that frantic energy of, I don't understand, or confusion, or I don't know what to do, or whatever. And, like, I'll ask myself that, and I'll think to myself, okay, what did she need to hear? What did she need to hear when I was 13, when I was 14, 15, whatever? What do I wish I'd known? What do I wish I could go back and say to her? And then I'll just like really put my hand like wherever I feel it and say, I'm with you. I see you. I see this. And I'll imagine like really me as like this person who wants to show up in schools and go, hi, I'm here for you. And I want to like be the person who understands your emotions. I imagine that me being that person for me and saying whatever it is that I needed to hear to sort of prevent me from harm in a certain situation or whatever. And like that's one of the methods of like healing this part of us, you know. So
yeah to add what you're saying, and to maybe like stress the importance of it, and that's where we're also going into the solution mode, so to say, or into how can you heal your inner teenager, because we don't only want to talk about, you know, what is the inner teenager and what are the problems, but also like how can you actually develop a better or healthier, I should say, relationship with your inner teenager. And you've already like talked about so many important points. It's like you should do your best to allow yourself to feel whatever's coming up, but not identify with it. I think a big problem that many people are facing, like, including ourselves, is that sometimes when triggers are coming up, we're really identifying with them. We're identifying with that part of ourselves. And in that moment, it's not like we think that, yeah, I'm this grown woman walking around and why am I feeling so challenged? But no, it's actually the inner child sometimes, and often the inner teenager that feels so triggered, that part of ourselves that felt left or insecure, or felt like, look, I wanted to look, maybe what are my peers doing, what are my parents doing, like I didn't think that I knew my own way. But now we're not there anymore. Now you can start to disidentify and be like, okay, it's okay that a part of me thinks that I don't have the answer, but like also now there's another part of me who knows I have the answer. There's another part of me who knows that I can find an aligned answer for myself. And I think it's so important to be able to be both parts of yourself, to allow your inner teenager to be what they are, to allow your inner teenager to feel all the emotions, and at the same time, instead of merging with that, to be like, all right, and I'm here, even if it's not clear right now what the solution is, we're gonna find it. And to have that parent-like energy, or that confident energy that we're safe, we're safe, I know that we're safe. And to really look at what your inner teenager is thinking, like how are you creating drama, how are you creating the problem, what are you thinking, what are the feelings. And then, as you also said, and that's another important point, to validate yourself, to be like, all right, you are safe, I'm here with you, you're safe, we're gonna get through this. Sometimes you know what you needed to hear, so you can tell that to yourself. And if you don't know, just try to bring an energy of faith into the situation, where you're like, maybe right now I don't know what the solution is, but I can still find that energy of confidence and faith, where I can know and feel that somehow we're gonna find a solution, or I'm gonna be shown and guided the right way.
It's really interesting. And like we were talking earlier, weren't we? And we were going to do a video earlier, and then we did it later on, because earlier, like, my inner teenager again just came to say hello and reminded me of my tendency to be a little bit codependent at times. And it was so interesting, because what I do is, like, when I sort of sense that like nervous system like activation or something, what I have to do now is be like, right, I have to go away and like take myself away from whatever the situation was. There was a situation where Johnny, you know, it looked like he needed my help, and I was like, I could go into over helping and over fixing and over giving if I'm not careful. So I had to like go away and like let him, trust him to handle it. And I was like, we were messaging earlier, and I was saying, I'm just by the river, sat by the river, and I'm just having some time on my own, otherwise I'm going to end up being codependent. And you were like, wow, that's so cool that you're so aware of that. But like, yeah, this is the journey of healing. This is the journey of like, healing is first awareness. The first bit is awareness. Doesn't mean that you're never going to have these uncomfortable feelings anymore. It doesn't mean that, because we've got those neural pathways and that old behavior, right? But we just don't identify with it anymore. And so like, it's confusing. And I have to say, like, honestly, that journey of healing and changing your self-concept is confusing, very confusing.
And I feel we're onto a very important point here. Like, I love that you like went back to that situation we were talking about earlier, and shared that, you know, you were in the situation where something was coming up for you, while also you were aware at the same time. And this is something in the manifestation community that I think we need to talk more about. And I love that we are doing this right now, because when you're developing a new self-concept, what many people think is that, oh yeah, I'm just gonna be like, let's take the topic of relationships, I'm just gonna be this amazing, glowing, vibrant, confident goddess forever.
Bad
But
bitch vibes.
Or even worse, I shall say, like bad bitch vibe. And I love that vibe, and it's amazing to embody that sometimes. But like, what we need to understand, and this is so important, a goddess or a god or a king or a queen, what they also would always do, from my perspective, a goddess doesn't push back her pain or try to always be positive or always be confident. For me personally, being a goddess or a god for that matter means that when I'm in a relationship with myself or someone else, I don't have to pretend that I'm always confident. I never have insecurities or challenges. For me personally, it means, and that's also where I circle back to the experience that you shared from earlier on, is that I can show and confidently share what I'm going through, and I can be aware that, for example, I am insecure, or I feel insecure, or I feel maybe in that moment I can feel unworthy. Something can be coming up for me, and there's a huge difference to feeling it or merging with it. And there's also a huge difference to pretending that it's not there. And I think that is very unhealthy, and it's so important for us to understand, even if we are confident and we have an amazing self-concept, we can still sometimes feel helpless. We can still feel difficult and emotions and pain coming up, but that's nothing that is bad or a sign that you're doing something wrong. I think our ability to non-judgmentally observe and be with and feel our emotions, that is a really divine experience. Like, when we are, for example, when you're connecting with someone, isn't the vulnerable parts also the parts that connect us extremely deeply? Not saying that it's better or worse than something else, but that's also something that helps us be vulnerable and connect on such a deep level. And I think this is really the point I was getting at, like, be aware of the emotion and feel it without becoming it.
It's so interesting, because like you said, it's a really interesting process. Like today, I was like, oh wow, I think I actually texted you going, this is so interesting to be in it and also witness it. So like what you're saying is like polarity. Two things can exist at the same time. I'm experiencing these uncomfortable emotions, I'm also healing. I'm experiencing this desire to be and do and fix and be a people pleaser, but I'm also experiencing the conflict with that and the you know, the turbulence of wanting to do that. Like, we've got two things. We can be both incredibly aware and like learning and growing and challenging ourselves, and also finding it hard. So that's like really okay in the process. But what I noticed today when I was sat by the water and I had this awareness, like maybe before I would have been like, you know, everything's covered up, I'm completely confused and I don't know what's going on. But what was so interesting was dropping into my body and being like, wow, Like this experience is physical. This is a physical experience of my younger self and my neuroception in my mind going, oh, Greg, you need to do something. And I'm watching, I've got this awareness of me going, wow, this is happening. I'm not making this up. Like I'm having a physical reaction to something that my brain, my unconscious old self concept has seen as a threat. And I can feel it physically. But when you build that muscle of awareness, you start to detach. And so it was just so interesting because I was sat there going, yeah, this is really uncomfortable, rather than being like, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable, I can't bear it. It was more like, wow, this is really uncomfortable. And also how interesting that it's always like you can kind of enjoy the process of feeling. So I was like, wow, this is really interesting to be able to see this happening in action. Like, like I'm obviously a bit dysregulated. I'm less dysregulated because I now have that awareness. Taking myself away, I brought myself to water, which is something that soothes me and calms me down. And I'm allowing myself to be in the experience. And one of the things that I like to do, like Mo did with me in the last video, and that has just been profound in many of my the people that I speak to and friends that I have and things, is this like, okay, what does this feeling want to do? What does this feeling want to do? And if I could embody it and show someone else what it was like, what would it do? And I go like this, like it would be like this. Okay, so this is the feeling. When you're in your body and you start to notice, like, okay, this is what it feels like. I'm going to let myself experience this feeling in an embodied way, because then I'm not going, I'm fine, but I'm experiencing a horrible feeling. Instead, if you can go, right, I'm going to let my body feel this in whatever way, I'm going to give myself the space, actually, embody it so that the energy has the space to move into the physicality that it actually wants to be in. Like, and that can be through moving. If you're angry, for example, and you've got the fight response going on, you could like punch the air or punch a pillow or scream or whatever. Or if you're like feeling anxious, it might be like this, and you might need to do that to actually go and get that energy away, move it out of your system, because the stored survival stress is not going to go anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere. So we have to like do something with it. Let it do its thing. So I was sat there at the the waterfront earlier, go sort of like this, and other people must have walked past and thought, she all right? And I was thinking, yeah, I'm fine actually, because even though I'm doing this only because it's what my body wants to do, but I have the awareness that this is only what my body wants to do, not necessarily what my higher self or my authentic self wants to do, but this is what's needed right now. So I was doing that and holding myself with the awareness that that was what was happening. And then I was like, it's fine. I'm actually fine. And I like that awareness felt like this wise sort of adult self, like telling me that I was going to be okay. And then like I just kind of got up. I got up and I was like, oh, it's gone. Like that feeling's gone and I'm okay. I'm back to my sort of adult self now. It doesn't always happen like that, but sometimes it does. And it's really, it's amazing when it does, because it's like when you embody the feeling and you allow it to exist and you be with it for as long as it needs to be there, it goes. Feeling the feeling, to feel it, allows it the space for you to go, yeah, this is normal. This is normal. I'm going to let this be here and I'm going to validate it until it's ready to leave. We don't always, and the thing is as well, I think what we always do, because we're in our survival brain, is we try and think our way out of it. And that's another way of escaping the feeling, to problem solve it, to like, okay, what is it? Which memory is it from my childhood? Why did this happen? Okay, it must be because blah, 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 blah. And rather than just being with the feeling and being with the, like if you on some level think, yeah, this is my 14-year-old self, be with the 14-year-old self. You don't need to know specifically the date and the time and the event, exactly what it was, but just be with that energy of your younger self.
Exactly.
I found that to be really helpful.
Exactly. It's like, of course, I'm happy that you're mentioning that. Of course, you don't need to know exactly when something happened. And I mean, I actually also was thinking that I would love to mention that this this process or these experiences or tips that we're sharing here, you cannot only use that for your inner child or inner teenager. This is really like when you're doing inner work, you're always going to meet some part of yourself. Like sometimes I just even like to think about, there's a part of me that feels rejected. There's a part of me that feels depressed, for example. And you don't always have to know, you don't even have to know exactly what you're feeling. Sometimes you don't, but you just the fact, like, and just the experience of being with it will help you. And like, as you said, just being there will help you to create awareness, even if you don't have awareness at the beginning. Like I had a moment or an experience today where I was like, I don't know really what's going on with me, but like I was in a frantic energy and I was like, why this is happening right now? And sometimes, and I think probably Corri, you can relate to that, as we are coaching and helping other people and we're doing this work for many years already, sometimes I have this expectation of myself that because I've already processed so much and because I understand so much about it and I'm emotionally aware, I should always be emotionally aware. I should always know what's going on. But sometimes I simply don't. And
exactly.
in the moment, there's something that I haven't yet processed because we're experiencing new things every day. And sometimes you come across people who treat you a certain way. And it was like, oh wow, my landlord talked to me in a really disrespectful way 2 weeks ago. And I didn't want to, or I didn't know that could impact me and that could hurt me in that way. So when I was lying down, I was like processing. I was like, what pictures are coming up in my mind? And I just replayed different scenarios throughout the past 2 weeks where I was like, okay, all these people are not that close to me, but the sum of all of this and all of these ways, the little things added up to a little like kind of a blockage within me where I was like, I still need to release that and acknowledge. And I was telling myself, Julia, you deserve to be treated really with a lot of respect and presence. And just because not everybody knows how to do that doesn't mean that you're not impacted or anything. Like, you deserve this. And I didn't know before that how a landlord talks to me has an impact on me because I didn't have that awareness. But when you're sitting with something or when you're sitting with an experience and you're just allowing yourself to not know it and to just be there, your mind is going to show you and you're going to start to understand. But what we really need is the patience to be like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to put my phone away for a bit and to just be there and to feel it and to let myself sink into my body and to be present with it, and not just for a minute or two, but to just give myself the time until I'm feeling a little more clarity. It doesn't have to mean that the feeling goes away. I don't think feelings go away immediately, usually not. But like, just allow yourself to become present with whatever experience is there.
And that's the thing as well, like those shoulds. I should be feeling better. I know this stuff. What's wrong with me?
I shouldn't be impacted by how my landlord is talking to me.
No,
you know, I was like this guy, like, I don't know him. I will probably see him one more time in my entire life. Like, who cares? And I was like, so you have that still the weight of
like awareness energy. Of like, I should, like, I know better, but also I feel different. So those two things can exist. But the thing is that's interesting as well, because it's like shame creeping in. Like, I'm a coach. I should be healed. I should know exactly what's going on with me all the time. But like where shame creeps in, anxiety is going to creep in too, because shame is a survival mechanism as well, which was developed from, the caveman times of like tribes and everybody wanting to be in a tribe and be accepted and be loved. And if you weren't, then basically you would die. So like, it makes perfect sense that we've got these shoulds and these shouldn'ts. And again, that is also the inner teenager going, I should be this, I should be that, I should feel this way, I should whatever. So yeah, oh gosh, honestly, we could talk about this like all day and night. Like, it's such a big topic. And so I guess like to sort of start to close it, I suppose, is just an invitation for everyone to have a little think a journal maybe about like to have a conversation with your inner teenager. If you are feeling particularly stressed today, or something's going on, or there's frantic energy or whatever, like ask yourself how old you feel and talk to that part of you. And you might find that it is your inner teenager, and that part of you needs to hear a certain message from you as an adult now. Be with that energy, be with that emotion, no matter how uncomfortable it might feel. The truth is the feeling won't last, especially as you allow yourself to feel it. The feeling will last not very long at all when you allow yourself to feel it. But notice that as you sit there or lie there or whatever, when you sit down and you're lying there and whatever, your mind will go, oh, I've got to just quickly look at my phone, or I've got to like I'm going to go to the bathroom, I've got a headache, or actually I need to do something,
I need to wash the dishes,
I'm so annoyed with that person, but why did they make me feel like that? All these things, or whatever you're doing that's taking you away from just being still and experiencing the emotion, is your mind's very clever way of trying to let you not experience it because it's uncomfortable, because it's painful. And these things, yeah, they're painful, but they will go. And this is like, I suppose this is like quite a sort of really deep way of healing these parts of yourself. And not as well, not to have this expectation of yourself that, okay, I'm going to do this a few times and then I'm going to be healed. I mean, like, we're always going to have parts of ourselves, like till we die, that are going to go, it's me again, your 14-year-old self, come to wreak havoc in your life.
Yeah, it's like, but it's also like when somebody tells me, and I have people sometimes tell me like, how long do I need to do this work? And I'm like, you don't wake up in the morning and ask yourself, why do I have to brush my teeth every single day? Why do I have to take a shower every now and then? Like, you're not expecting yourself. That's what I'm sometimes saying. You're not expecting yourself to take a shower one time and then be clean forever, right? You're doing it regularly, so you're remaining fresh and you maintain your hygiene and so on. You're taking care of yourself physically, but that's what you're also doing emotionally, is by keeping on having a relationship with ourselves. It's like you would do it with a real child or with a real teenager. You keep on having understanding for your own inner aspects throughout your entire life. And it becomes actually a beautiful process, I would say. So
it's like
maybe to summarize, like, the steps that you want to be taking is like, 1, you want to really allow yourself to feel, to create awareness, to just be with whatever is going on, to validate yourself, and then to, at some point, whenever you're ready and whenever you've soothed yourself and you've regulated your nervous system, you can then start to think about, okay, what beliefs do I need to change for this experience to change, or to rewire my self-concept. Like, those are the three steps that I would say are relevant from what we've been talking about today.
And sometimes, like, regulating your nervous system can mean you have a massive cry, or you go for a walk, or you you just find a way to release whatever the stress is in your body, move it, embody it, whatever it is that needs to be done in order for you to sort of feel like you've gone back into a more calm state, a more sort of like regulated state. But it's doing that in the moments of stress, because like with a dog, you don't train a dog after it's done something, you train it in the moment. And that's kind of what we've got to do with ourselves as well. But then with the reflection as well, we're able to learn from our experiences, like you say. So, okay, so I've been through this, I've regulated my nervous system, and now what can I learn from that? What beliefs do I want to implant now that I've experienced that emotion? What's that telling me about my inner teenager? What does she believe? What do I want to teach her now? What do I want to, or him, what do I want to teach my inner teenager about life now? About the way the world is now, so that we can create a new story, a new self-concept, have a new experience in relationships, and create a new behavior to the old sensations that will come up. They'll come up. Very interesting. Cool. Well,
amazing. I think we went down the rabbit hole for a while.
And go on, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your experience and your thoughts with your and with my community. I think this was an amazing conversation, and yeah, that's what I want to say. Is there anything that you want to add to?
Yeah, no, just the same, really. Like, I'm so glad we finally got to do a collaboration. I'm sure there will be more. We've got some other ideas.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the same thing. I'm sure it's not the last one.
Yeah, so, and also, like, you know, if you're still watching this video, then yay, thanks for watching it all. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, and comment below and let us know, like, what you've learned or what you relate to, what you can empathize with, or anything. You know, it's always really nice to understand and know, like, who's receiving these messages. And if you'd like us to, like, you know, do another collab about another particular thing, let us know.
I would love to hear what you would want us to talk about next time we get together. Let's see if we get some good ideas. We might be doing it very soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, don't forget to go and follow Julia's Instagram, which is really cool, by the way. Like, she's got.
Oh, thank you so much. And again, Corri's Instagram and YouTube are linked down below, so definitely check that out too.
I really like your Instagram. You put so much effort into your posts.
I just like, it's like I'm really vibing with it. It's
fun.
Yeah, I like doing that.
Yeah, cool.
I like doing what I'm doing. So,
well, thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. See you in the next video.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.